Welcome to WYCD Wicked, that stands for What You Can Do. My name is Jake, and how's my audio? Do I sound all right? Do let me know. I'm attempting a new setup so that I don't blow out your eardrums rather than your minds. Wait, blow out your minds? I tried to make it a thing. How's the audio? Do tell me if you're in the chat. Yeah. So tonight we are talking about what would have been 6 months of news, if not multiple years of news, in any other era. But instead, it's just wrapping up the week. K-Dog, what's my favorite wannabe influencer up to, I presume? Well, I'm talking about the news tonight. I'm talking about the absolute non-scandal that should have been the president of the United States flipping off a worker or filing an order, I'm not sure if you heard, to make the Epstein files unenforceable. Yes, he did, Nathan Hazel Hertz. He did indeed. Yeah, so he filed an order on late Friday to prevent the Epstein Accountability Act from being enforceable. So basically saying that thing that got unanimous votes in the House and Senate, except for one guy, he's saying that thing, they don't actually have to follow. It's a real shame, and I got to tell you, there has yet to be an administration, since it was discovered that Epstein was a diddler, there's yet to be an administration, Republican or Democrat, that has been willing to be forthright with the American people about, who's diddling whom. And that's a real concern, I gotta say. The fact that none of us can get our parties to have any sort of justice, that means there is a rot that we have yet to evict from U.S. politics. Your boy Mark says, "You're talking to yourself, loser. You have no followers or supporters. Hang it up, bud. You are a hack and nobody likes you." Yeah, a couple people like me. I think they're, I think they ought to have higher standards, but a couple of people do like me. Shocking. Trump doesn't run anything the oligarchs do. I am concerned that you're correct. At least if Trump was making the decisions, I'd have like a central figure to hold accountable for all this. I still think, if the president, no matter what party they are, if the president's in office, they hold some responsibility for the state of the country. But if you're talking cause and effect, who's pulling the strings, who appears to be in charge, especially when it comes to things like Venezuela, whether or not we get to have any justice for the Epstein victims, so on and so forth, yeah, it's the oligarchs calling the shots. They are, and Elon Musk, George Soros, Bill Gates, these are all people who have been puppeteering our presidents for decades now. Soros, Gates, my whole life, Elon Musk, my entire adult life. Yeah, our presidents have just been puppets, and they sing different songs depending on the inclinations of their base, but they don't behave differently in any sort of way that takes power away from the oligarchs and gives it to you like it ought to be. Basically every president of my lifetime has just been a servant of the oligarchs, and it makes me think less of America and Americans, and I don't like that. And even in doing so, I have to acknowledge I've been part of the problem. I love turning to the other party and saying, "See, this is your fault," but we're both controlled by oligarchs. What the f are we talking about? We'll get to it. Thank you, K-Dog. I appreciate it. Yeah, there's no obligation to follow, to subscribe, any of that stuff. And if you're folks joining us from across the aisle, let me start by saying, even though you're unlikely to agree with most of the opinions I have, I respect the hell out of your ability to listen to somebody who doesn't agree with you. And I offer you this: even if you want to strategize against us, having a sense of what progressives actually feel about issues is going to be invaluable to you. Again, even if you're working against us, I'd rather have you beat us honestly than have either of our side win by submitting to the oligarchs. And the last time around, progressives won by supporting Joe Biden after Bernie Sanders was rat-fucked out of the election. Deal with the devil. We keep making it over and over and over again. Land Market Networking says, remember when a couple Mossad agents took Elon to Auschwitz for a spanking? No, I don't. Holy crap. I mean, in this era, that's not a headline that surprises me, but oof. Oh, god dang it, Mark Carney. What's going on? Canada, what are you doing? All right, what am I saying? I'm in America right now. We can't get any political party in this country to obey the law when it comes to accountability for pedo protectors. So what the f am I talking about? Let's get to it. Yeah, Trump is a mid-level oligarch at best. He's a high-level gangster, but a mid-level oligarch. Captain Homer says, and Trump's brains knew exactly what and who the PDF protector is. I mean, yeah, it's all of them. Trump is amongst them. He's perhaps chief pedo protector, as we're going to find out with the new legal filing. But I don't want to spare an opportunity to jab Joe Biden. That motherfucker had 4 years to give us some transparency. The only group, I think, right now that is sincerely operating the interests of the American people are progressives. And if you think, oh, well, we just had 4 years of that, I want to stress we have never had progressive leadership in America. So it's easy for us to say, well, they got the best plan because we haven't tried our plan yet. But hell, we tried everything else, and it's all pedo protectors. So what do we have to lose? All right. Yeah. I'm not sure about the specifics. Selling to China, allying with this, that, or the other thing. I just know he is what we would call here a neoliberal, and that just means a servant to the oligarch. It's just a fancy word for servant to the ultra rich. Biden didn't know what was going on. Agreed. The only transparency, says Landmark Networking, the only transparency Biden was worried about was his trousers if he forgot his diapers. Yeah, I don't like that we've now had multiple presidents that literally cannot control their bowels. I don't know that Biden ever actually wore adult diapers, but I mean, his brain was soup by the end, so almost feels like an obligation. But yeah, having multiple presidents who literally shit themselves in front of people, we're a hollow country. We are what is known as a Potemkin village. That is a village that was put up to make a town in Russia look well-to-do, and then it was found to literally just be empty homes and fake storefronts that were posted along where journalists would be. That's our whole country. We're supposedly the richest country in the world, but we don't have health care like every other wealthy country. We force it upon our citizens to pay for their own health care. We're supposedly the richest country in the world, but there's potholes everywhere, at least in my state. We're supposed to be the richest country in the world, but we work longer hours than every other country except maybe Japan. And our average pay, the median pay, has been dipping below other countries, even though we're the richest country in the world. We're the richest country in the world, sort of like how Saudi Arabia is a rich kingdom. There's a lot of wealth technically assigned to that country, but you don't get to control it. The Saudis don't get to control it unless they're a prince and they're murdering journalists. That's us as a country. And we have been getting that way more and more and more for the last 40 years, basically since Reagan. I can break down why that is. There's a mathematical reason, but it basically just comes down to the rich do not pay taxes. If you start making more than $1 million a year, you pay a smaller and smaller and smaller percentage of your income as taxes. It should go the opposite way. The more money you make after $1 million should mean a larger and larger percentage of your total income goes to taxes. But that is not how it works in America because we've been duped by a bunch of con artists. So now you pay more as a percentage of your taxes than wealthy people do. It's a crime. It's not a crime. It's actually been, it's been written into law, but it's a moral crime. Nina Canadian, my angel, thank you so much for the sunflower, my very favorite flower, next to Nina Canadian herself. Let's get into the news. I have a sneaking suspicion. Well, you know what? If we got some MAGA voters here, I'm going to ask you. You know what? Yeah. I'm going to ask you to watch a progressive with me. Because I don't think you have an accurate view of how you feel about things that happen in the news. I suspect that you have been given, and intentionally been given, an incorrect opinion of what we care about. Just like I'm discovering, we have been provided an incorrect idea of what you care about. Sorry I said that weird. But basically, we're being lied to about each other because the one thing we definitely agree about between MAGA and progressives is that George Soros should not be buying elections. You go to any progressive, and after they correct you and say, well, it's not just George Soros. Wait a minute. It's not just the Jewish guy, because they've been told to be paranoid that that's what you care about. After they say that, they will agree with you. They say, well, of course, I don't want to be able to buy elections. I don't want AIPAC being able to buy elections. I don't want Bill Gates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, have a look. Whether I'm not asking you to agree with this guy. I'm asking you to look at a guy named Brandon Sutton. He's as progressive as you get in terms of his ideology, I would say. And audience, y'all probably horizontal viewers, certainly, you probably are more informed than I. But I would label Brandon Sutton as a through and through progressive. Here he is talking about former Democratic New York Mayor Eric Adams. Have a gander at what he's talking about and why he cares. And I think you're going to be surprised, but maybe not. Let's see. You tell me.
Eric Adams is doing that new crypto project. I forgot about that because I definitely want to do like a Mom Donnie thing this week. But doesn't he have this like new
very
NYC crypto? It doesn't like
Mom
fight
Donnie.
anti-Semitism.
Well, former Mayor Eric Adams back in Times Square this morning to launch one of his first
Before somebody else brings it up, I just want to say, yes, we're watching a guy talking about another guy. But hey, the whole point is to give you an idea of what progressives care about, so let's get to it.
Surprises since leaving office, he unveiled a new NYC token. He says it's part of an effort to fight anti-Semitism using cryptocurrency.
We know cities can run better.
Good man.
And by using this New York City token,
it just needs to be said out loud. Peter Thiel is indeed someone of great concern. That dude is straight up. Demonic is overused these days, but not in this case. That dude is. Palantir is just a giant spy on you project. A conversation for another time. So this is Eric Adams talking about NYC token. He was trying, as of when this thing was recorded, he was trying to get as many people as possible to buy into this new crypto that he was launching. So that's what you have to fully grasp about this for it to make sense. Eric Adams wanted folks. Eric Adams wanted folks to buy a new cryptocurrency. Okay, Brandon, go get him.
New York City token, we're going to continue to invest in making our city a safer city. I am not going anywhere.
Adams says that money raised through the purchase of the token.
I'm not going anywhere. It's such a funny thing for the New York City mayor, Eric Adams, to say when a big criticism of him was that he didn't even live in New York City. So like technically like not going anywhere would still probably put him outside of New York City. How does the coin fight anti-Semitism, you think?
So first of all, you might notice something. Brandon Sutton is skeptical of former Democratic Mayor Eric Adams. Now, you might not know this, but one of the reasons Eric Adams was on the outskis from politics in the first place is that progressives called him out, including a YouTuber named Oli May. She's also a lawyer, and she was on The Breakfast Club with Eric Adams, and she just straight up called him out for his corruption. He ended up getting investigated for just taking bribes from the government of Turkey. That's all it breaks down to. So progressives have never liked this guy, and we were infuriated that he got a pardon from Donald Trump.
Will fund a nonprofit aimed at fighting anti-Semitism. He added that he will not be initially taking a salary.
He said profits from this are going to go to fund a nonprofit aimed at fighting anti-Semitism. How much do you want to bet? How much do you want to bet that he's not being honest about that? If you discover that he's not being honest about this New York City token being something you ought to invest your money in. Because remember, the idea is you invest a ton of money. You give them money to buy these tokens, kind of like stocks, but they're stocks for nothing. They're just stocks for themselves. You give them a lot of money to buy these tokens, and then the token becomes worth more than the money you paid for it. That's how you profit off these things. They're supposed to increase in value, and to increase in value, they have to stick around.
Salary from the money that's raised.
Okay, sure. That all sounds true. Initially means day one, yeah.
All right,
The day
Brandon.
one has already passed.
What
That seems
happened
like such a
after one
quaint
day?
scheme. Doesn't it seem a little bit late to be doing like an NYC token? It's already 2026. Unless it's literally just for money laundering, who's going to buy into that? No one's going to buy into that. He already rug pulled it? Crazy.
CH5150 ACDC. Who's racist? Who is racist? Not I.
No way. The Jerusalem Post is posting about it. Okay, let's go to The Verge. I guess we can read that The Verge. So, as is appropriate for learning about crypto, in the span of 10 minutes, we found out about a new coin, only to find out that it's already been rugged by the creator, or at least someone who was key to the creation and marketing of it. In this case, Eric Adams. So this is an article from The Verge.
There it is.
By Emma Roth. Former New York City Mayor Eric Adams accused of 2.5 million crypto rug pull as his NYC token crashes. This is just from like this morning. This just happened. This is from 22 minutes ago. He just rugged it. It's like that South Park bit, and the money's gone. Crazy.
Okay. Now, if you want to watch the whole thing, of course, the link is in the description. But look here. That is a progressive. He is talking about a Democrat. That is how we feel about most Democrats. He's pointing out the blatant corruption of this guy. Yes, it's different than the corruption that he engaged in when he took bribes from Turkey as the mayor, but it's still proof of his character. Did you think that a progressive would be a big fan of Eric Adams before you came into the stream? I wonder. Did you notice that this is not the first time we've been critical of this guy? And do you see that it's based on principles? It's based on the actual things he's doing, not what he says he is. He says he's a New Yorker that cares about all New Yorkers, and he's gonna give the money to a charity that you couldn't possibly disagree with. He says all those things. What does he do? Steals. He announced a new kind of cryptocurrency one day, and the very next day, he pulled the rug. In other words, he took investments for that whole day. He hit the number he needed to hit, and then he did something which is now so common that there is a term for it in investing called a rug pull. He took all that money. When he hit the number he needed, he said, never mind, we're done. Never mind, I'm dumping all my coins now. Because you see, I had a certain amount that I was given in order to try to raise the value of these things. And what I did was, when I saw the value go up, I cashed out, because I didn't actually think this thing was going to catch on. It never needed to catch on. I just needed enough dummies to buy the coin so that when I cashed out my coins, they were worth something. That is what he did. And then I believe he took a vacation to the Seychelles. Democrat Eric Adams, folks. Now, maybe I shouldn't be saying Democrat. I think he was kicked out of the party. I don't believe. Did he have to run as an independent most recently? Yeah, oops, all scams. Ay. Imagine actually being an American, says Carnage of Crust. Yeah, it's not a proud moment for our country. The fact that, we got a story coming up. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. It hurts. It really does. Yeah. U.S. politics these days does feel like the oops all crunch berries, except it's oops all scams. HBX, good to see you, my friend. It's always a delight. So that's what a progressive thinks about Eric Adams. Now, understand, we've been on his ass from the beginning. What I'm asking for you to take away from this is that a lot of times, if you are being told someone is a Democrat and thus progressive, socialist, communist, all these words that don't really mean anything because they're overused by people that don't even have a meaning in mind for them exactly, probably don't listen to that person about anything, because they're trying to, whether they mean to or not, I guess I shouldn't assume, whether they mean to or not, they're misinforming you. And crucially, they're misinforming you about your opposition, so that you and I are not able to negotiate on anything. You and I are not able, you're not able to change my mind on anything, because you don't know where my mind is to begin with. And maybe you've got a good point. Case in point, my God, QAnon, to my shock, QAnon actually was kind of correct about the fact that there is a conspiracy of pedophiles in the US government. Boy, I wish we hadn't been arguing with them about the nonsense that they also tried to smuggle into the political conversation with the cheese pizzas and all that other clown stuff. I mean, the core point was correct. I wish we'd have been working together on that. God damn. Sorry for blasphemy, but good Lord. You know what I mean. I'm sorry. Yeah. And I feel like the conspiracy theories were a plant. Like the conspiracy, like the theorizing and the colorful stuff, I think that was introduced or signal boosted with the intention of discrediting the main point, which is that there's a bunch of fucking diddlers in the US government. Because, gang, there's a bunch of diddlers in the US government. To this day. Hey, wait a minute. Let's talk about that. Oh, I don't care for Daily Beast headlines. I really don't care for the way they handle that. Just a second. I'm pulling this up. DOJ motion. Here we go. This is from ABC News. That's pretty tame. Yeah, if you want to, by the way, if you want to find out more about what progressives think about things, I think you'll be surprised, possibly even interested. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to feel the pressure to do all that stuff, but go check out The Discourse, spelled with a 3 because we're fucking in hell. But The Discourse with Brandon Sutton. He's a pretty straightforward guy, and you'll have a better understanding of America as a whole. Here's the headline: weight loss plans starting as low as $69 a month. Because we are in capitalist hell, Justice Department says members of Congress can't intervene in release of Epstein files. It's by the Associated Press, although it is being rebroadcast on ABC News. Manhattan's top federal prosecutor said Friday that a judge lacks the authority to appoint a neutral expert to oversee the public release of documents in the sex trafficking probe of financier of child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein and British socialite, well-known diddler of children, Ghislaine Maxwell. To summarize what they're about to say real quick. What happened was there was an amicus brief filed with the court that I believe it was by Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, because they do have legal backgrounds, and they were trying to get the Epstein files released. In other words, bipartisan efforts here. Congratulations to us for at least agreeing that diddlers are gross and belong in prison. But anyway, there was a filing, an amicus brief, which is just an opinion that you submit to the court for their consideration. You know, hey, think about this. And it suggested this: part of the people who are going to be affected by the files and the miscarriage of justice that was the Epstein case are in the Department of Justice. And given the fact that some of these fucking gross diddlers are in the Department of Justice, then maybe just maybe, there should be an overseer of the case, a neutral overseer. That is a very common thing to do. You basically find a retired lawyer or judge or whatever, somebody who's not connected to the case at all, and you have them call the shots as far as how many people do you need, how long do you have to do this thing, what is a reasonable amount of time to do, yada yada yada. And they're allowed to look at the things so they can give you a fair assessment. Now that is not controversial at all to suggest that that should be done in this case. This is like the kind of thing such a motion was designed for. But then, U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton sends Judge Paul A. Engelmeyer a letter saying that he must reject the request this week by congressional co-sponsor of the Epstein Files Transparency Act to appoint the neutral expert. U.S. Representative Ro Khanna, a California Democrat, and Representative Thomas Massie, a Kentucky Republican, say they have urgent, in other words, two dudes that aren't okay with child diddling, say they have urgent and grave concerns about the slow release of only a small number of millions of documents that began last month. Just to be clear, currently, the Trump DOJ is in violation of the law. They are willfully and intentionally, that's the same thing. They are willfully breaking the law. And they're doing it, apparently, to protect diddlers. As we saw when they retracted, when they released a picture that had a person on it that was redacted and appeared to be, a grown man. And then we later found out, that picture already exists out in the public. I'll give you one guess as to who the guy was. That's how we knew who was under the redacted part. And they definitely were not a victim. Which is the only people they have the right to redact. In a filing to the judge, they said they believed criminal violations have taken place in the release process. I agree. Clayton, though, said Khanna and Massie do not have standing with the court that would allow them to seek the extraordinary relief of the appointment of a special master and independent monitor. It's not extraordinary. Again, this is basically the kind of situation that a special master exists to be the special master of. When there is an apparent conflict of interest, when there's a reason to suspect a conflict of interest could arise, not even that it has arisen yet, but could arise, you appoint a special master. And in this case, an independent monitor as well, because there's a lot of files. But not a lot of files like it's never been done before. A lot of files like, yeah, this is a big case. This is years of neglect that we have to account for by law to the American people. It shouldn't take months. 1 week. If you had, what do they have? They said 200 lawyers. At one point, it was 1,000 lawyers. But let's go with the lower one. You had 200 lawyers. Can't go through those files in a month. You can't go through those files in 2 months. 200 lawyers working around the clock like they're supposed to. Like, for example, if they give a shit. Like, for example, if it's about diddling kids and people that got away with it. 200 lawyers could clear a building full of documents, as I heard Ben Meiselas state it, from here to the top of the Empire State Building in that amount of time. Engelmeyer lacks the authority to grant such a request, he said, particularly because the congressional representatives who made the request are not parties to the criminal case that led to Maxwell's December 2021 sex trafficking conviction and subsequent 20-year prison sentence for recruiting girls and women for Epstein to abuse. Let me go back. For recruiting children for Epstein to abuse and aiding the abuse. Aiding the abuse of children. Khanna and Clayton's response misconstrued the intent of their request, says he. We are informing the court of serious misconduct by the Department of Justice that that makes sense, that requires remedy. And we believe this court has the authority to provide. This is fine. I don't know why this guy is arguing like this. At which victims themselves have requested. O'Connor said, oh, that makes more sense. We are informing the court of the serious misconduct by the Department of Justice that requires a remedy. So basically, the Department of Justice was told to release the files and they didn't. Now the court must insist that they do. One, we believe this court has the authority to provide. You're the person in charge of these Epstein files right now, court. Or rather, you're in charge of the government's conduct around them. Pretty straightforward. And which victims themselves have requested. Okay. Makes sense, right? Our purpose is to ensure that the DOJ complies with its representations to the court and with its legal obligations under our law, he added. Epstein died in a federal jail in New York City in August 2019 as he awaited trial on sex trafficking charges. The death was ruled a suicide. This is a little subtle there. See if you can pick up how I feel about that. The Justice Department expects to update the court again shortly regarding its process in turning over documents from Epstein and Maxwell investigative files, Clayton said in the letter. Oi! Do you see what my problem is here? There's one thing, which is they're arguing that a special master should not be appointed because the people who suggested it, they say, don't have standing. Now, they're representatives of both Republicans and Democrats. I think they have perfect standing. This is a case that has interest to all Americans. It was a unanimous vote in the House and the Senate, except for one Republican, who said, we want this out there because the Department of Justice has failed us, and we don't have faith in them. And it's pretty obvious that there's a bunch of kitty diddlers out there. I would say they have standing in that regard. We don't know whose sons and daughters got diddled. So yes, representatives of the people absolutely ought to have standing, but that's sort of beside the point. Why is Clayton making that the argument? Why not address what they said? Do you require a special master? Why don't you require a special master? Why don't you require oversight from an uninvolved, otherwise party? The avoiding of the question at hand is so damning. When somebody cannot answer a direct question, when somebody cannot address a straightforward point, 9 times out of 10, it's because they're lying. Now, sometimes they're lying because they don't actually know the answer and they're embarrassed. But usually they're lying because they do know the answer and they're embarrassed. I think that's what we got going on here. Lawyers, well, maybe that was the problem, says not so private playlist. Isn't it supposed to be prosecutors going through it? Well, I mean, it's prosecutors are lawyers. It's the defense and prosecution. But in the case of what is called an amicus brief, that's a friend of the court, so it can really be any lawyer that that writes in and offers insight as they see fit. K-Dog says, yeah, they're hiding the information in the truth because too many Democrats and Republicans went to Epstein Island. I think that's it, exactly. I think it's the same reason Joe Biden chose never to take up the issue at all, because I have a feeling he knew what he'd find. I think that's the reason Trump was saying, are we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Because he was at the island. He was diddling kids. Hillary didn't want to talk about it for the same reasons. Nobody did until we made him, which is a big part of the reason why I'm trying to talk to the crowd I'm trying to talk to now. Because it's one thing for us to win the argument of what they said they were running on. And that sure feels good. It does feel good in the moment when your person wins. But the thing is, they're your person. Because none of these motherfuckers actually care about the things they say they care about. So what we need to do is, regardless of what party you're in, take control of your politician. You got to be a higher level Pokemon trainer, because they're not obeying you right now. They only say what you want to hear when it's time to run. And then they lie. They lie, they lie, they lie, they lie, they lie, they lie, they lie. Biden's a liar. Trump is a liar. Obama was a liar. They are, through and through, all lying. And they're lying, in this case, about the worst possible thing a creature can do. The worst thing. The kind of thing that if you discovered that there were animals on your property that did that to their own young, you would just fucking burn your property to the ground. The worst thing creatures can do. All of them. They will certainly, they've shared the White House, and they will share a hot spot in hell. But before they get there, you and I need to take control of our various factions. And that includes no more bullshit about the Epstein files. If somebody is saying they're not going to release them, and this includes, at this point, even Democrats, if they're saying, well, the next vote coming up, I'm not sure where I stand. No, you're just done. We throw you out of office, tar and feather you. We don't, anybody in power, anybody who's considering being in power, if you're not in favor of releasing the just 100% transparency when it comes to what happened with the Epstein investigation, how did he die, what happened to those kids, what happened to the abusers of those kids, why is Prince Andrew not in a U.S. prison, we don't have time for you. Yeah, don't ask how the candy gets made. That's it. Dominico, what's up, man? Well, I mean, okay, every time I go to the bathroom, I am the special master. So, yeah, for what it's worth, that's fair enough. That is what I might call my schwanz. Now, I do like the idea of that. Because those Democrats and Republicans want to keep controlling the American people, and if the this is K-Dog saying, because those Democrats and Republicans want to keep controlling the American people, and if the American people know which ones went to Epstein Island, David lose their power because the American people won't vote for him anymore, and they can't control America. Who's David? I don't fully understand. I'm sorry. But I think broadly the point is correct. I mean, it's Democrats and Republicans, and what happens, just to summarize, every single time is that they lie to you about sharing your morals. They actually have no morals because they're a bunch of jackals. And once they have your vote, they allow media to spin their thieving of your labor as, whatever will let them get away with it. And they don't respect you. They throw fancy parties that you're not invited to. And apparently you should be a little bit glad that you weren't invited, because those parties involve fucking children. I knew you have no idea what you're talking about when you invoked Pokemon. That was a dead-on perfect Pokemon analogy. You are too low level of a voter, is what I'm saying. Don't feel like I'm, picking on you. So was I until like tonight. So was I. And if you're not a nerd, then in Pokemon, as a way to slow the game down, what happens is you battle with monsters and you give them commands. But if you are too low of a level, the monsters don't listen to you, and they just do whatever they want. And I think that's pretty much exactly what's happening here. We are not involved enough with our own leaders that they don't think they have to do what we wish. And so they do whatever they want. But I am of the belief that you and I can exercise control over our politicians, particularly with the threat of primaries coming up. Now, especially if your people are in power, is the time to scare them with primaries. Yeah, level up, nerds. Yeah, I agree with this, K-Dog. The government just wants to keep us under control. Tell us what to do and how to do it. Tax the living shit out of us so they can live a rich. Tax the living shit out of us so they can live a rich fat cat life. Yeah, yeah. When you say, I assume you meant tax the living shit out of us. I want to be clear about taxes, though. Because I agree that's what they're trying to do, especially when it comes to something called deficit spending, which Republicans bitch about more but engage in way more than Democrats. I'm not trying to pick on Republicans in particular. Again, I think both parties are going to burn in hell. But I'm bringing up Republicans in this case because they're doing it right now. It's called deficit spending, and deficit spending ends up being paid for over the course of generations by the U.S. taxpayer. When they are taxing the living out of us, it is not because taxes generally are bad. It's because they make the active decision, both Republican and Democrat. They make the active decision over the last 40 years to put the burden of necessary taxes entirely on the middle class and the poor. But the rich always get less and less and less taxation. The rich, who should be paying for the majority of things, actually pay for almost nothing. And the reasoning was something that Art Laffer came up with, before him, Ronald Reagan popularized as trickle-down economics. Trickle-down economics is the idea that if you let rich people keep more of their money, then they will reinvest in their businesses. But it turns out that is not what they do. It turns out what they do is just put it in the bank and let it stay there. They remove the money from the economy. They are no more productive with it. However, if you tax less from the poor, what do poor people do with extra money in their pocket? They spend it immediately. That's great for the economy. That's basically how you keep a strong economy. So for the last 40 years, basically America has been driving down the highway in reverse and then wondering why our car is in horrible shape. It's because we're driving it wrong. We're doing the exact wrong thing. That's what we are doing when it comes to taxing. Yeah. And then of course you'll have somebody come out there and say, I'm going to cut taxes. And they'll get a big round of applause and nobody will bother asking them which taxes they're going to cut. The taxes they cut are for billionaires, and they raise your taxes to pay for it. Happened in 2016. It is happening again right now. That is basically, the group is called neoliberals, and that includes both Democrats and Republicans. That is the neoliberal standard play. To say they're going to cut taxes and leave off the fact that what they mean is they're going to cut taxes for the rich while raising yours. And even if they don't directly raise yours at a federal level, they still know that they're going to be effectively raising your taxes, because when they simply don't pay for something that you need, then it's going to have to be handled at a state level, and your state taxes will go up. And if you've got a place that simply doesn't take care of any of these needs, well, then you die. Then your road is in such horrible disrepair that an ambulance can't get to you when you have the heart attack. Then your house burns down for the same reason. Fire truck couldn't get there. There was no infrastructure in place. That's just the scam that has been going on for 40 years. My whole life in America. You're talking about taxes, so am I. You're talking about all taxes, all taxes, grocery tax, property tax. Yeah, but it's not enough just to know that those taxes are going up. Because it's true, but if we don't understand the why, we're going to just keep getting bamboozled by these con artists. And back in the day, it was confusing as to why, because they were very good at intentionally making it confusing. But it's not anymore, because we've seen in the cycle repeat enough that we can pull up the patterns. And the patterns are those grocery taxes, those property taxes in particular, with things called millages, which aren't all bad, but are a property tax, those things go up when federal funding goes down. And federal funding goes down when you don't tax the rich. And that's it. You want a more clear-cut example that you can just hand out to your friends as for why we are suffering the way we are. Social Security has a cap on it. Social Security, 100% of your income and 100% of my income and 100% of everybody who's watching their income gets Social Security taxes taken out of it. But if you make, I think the number is like $200,000. Let's find out. I shouldn't guess. What is the cap on Social Security tax? Okay, so $184,000. If you make more than $184,000, so in other words, you're doing pretty good. Every dollar after that, $184,500. Every dollar after that, 0% is deducted for Social Security. In other words, we could basically remove the Social Security tax for everybody that currently pays it and just shift that burden by saying, okay, there's a new cap on Social Security, and it's everybody making under $184,000, $184,500. They don't pay Social Security tax now. And if you make more than that, you do. 100% of that income is subject to, it's not taxed, but is subject to the standard Social Security tax. And then you would not pay for Social Security, but you would have it fully funded for the rest of eternity. We could just decide to do that tomorrow. And this has been, I'm not like a genius for figuring this out. This has been known for years and years and years. But we don't do it. And it's not talked about by Democrats, and it's not talked about by Republicans. And the reason why is they take donations from the people who would have to pay that tax, who currently don't pay that tax. So the reason you're paying a higher grocery tax and a higher property tax is because that income for the government has to come from somewhere, and we have chosen to make it come from you as opposed to the rich. Even though 15% of the nation's entire wealth is controlled by about 100,000 people. I think it's 150,000. About 100,000 people. In other words, the 0.01% of America controls 15% of everything you see. Let me put it this another way. A group of people you've never met and will never be allowed to be in the same room with control 15% of every street, every building, every lamp, every leaf, every blade of grass that you see. Do what you will with that information. I certainly hope the thing you'll decide to do is vote for somebody who doesn't take bribes from billionaires. Coming up, there's a trend in MAGA and there's a trend in progressives to not support people that take bribes from billionaires. Let's double down on that. Let's say nobody. If you're watching this, you're talking with me now, even if you don't agree with me about anything else, I beg you, within your own party, because it doesn't work if we just do this for one party. Within your own party, vote for no one that takes bribes from billionaires. Make that not the only issue you vote on, but the bare minimum that a politician must pass in order to receive your vote. Do they take bribes from billionaires? Get the fuck out. We don't need them. We don't need it. It is shocking, Pinkerbell. Pinkerbell says it's shocking how many people don't know it. Imagine somebody got murdered next door to you, and their body was cut up and scattered across the local woods in your town. And then a year later, the case is solved. Everybody figures out what happens. And somebody says a similar comment. They say, it's shocking that you didn't know that this happened right next to you. And while that's true, it is shocking that you didn't know that. You can also see that a lot of effort was put into making sure you didn't know. They chopped up the body at night when you were asleep, and before the sun rose, they brought it out in trash bags. They drove the body parts, and scattered them across the woods so that it was far away from where you do your daily business. In other words, it's shocking how many people don't know this about the Social Security cap, about the 15% of the nation's wealth being owned by 0.01% of people. It is shocking, but there is a reason. There's a reason. For the last 40 years, the main place people have got their information about how the world works was paid for by billionaires. It was paid for by companies which buy ads. Those companies are owned by billionaires. Bada bing, bada boom. They only supported people that would hide the fact that they're robbing us. So it's shocking, but it's also according to their plan. Very dark details. Yikes. That was a little harsh. Yeah, even the material used to teach in schools. What's the major Texas book distributor? No, it's not Ingram Content Book or Ingram Content Group. Maybe they renamed. Well, because it's the largest in North America, it still works. So the Ingram Content Group, as well as I don't want to say Texas Book Suppository, but that's not right. Texas Book Company. There you go. They're owned by billionaires. So do you think that the educational material that they allow your children to see will point out the crimes that they're doing, the scam that they're running on their parents? No. They certainly don't want you to pick up your kid's book, thumb through it, and be like, wait a minute. I paid 30% of my wages to taxes because Donald Trump paid $150 in taxes in 2018. Look that up. Wait a minute. 2015. Look that up. I had to pay 30% of my wages in taxes because Bill Gates paid nothing in tax for 2 years in a row. I had to pay 30% of my wages in taxes because Elon Musk was given money by California to complete a project he never even started, rather than paying taxes. The sort of thing that makes you build a guillotine. All right, gang. Now look, I've given you the sugar. I surely have. Now you gotta take the medicine. I'm going to talk about something that definitely MAGA will disagree with, but I hope that you'll find my take on this at least confirming that not everything you believe about me is wrong. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Oh my God, look at the ads. Ads everywhere for everything all the time. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz mobilizes state National Guard amid ongoing protests. Hot diggity, daffodil. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to see. No more letting Americans get assaulted in the streets. No more passing the buck on to the voter, to the protester, to the person with brass balls and a good heart. Finally, an elected politician protecting us from assault in the street. Tensions are flaring in Minneapolis as protesters decrying ICE and its agents' use of force face off with federal law enforcement, and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz mobilizes the state National Guard to stand ready to assist. Who, you might ask? Well, crowds have bundled up to... By the way, this is by CNN, Holly Ann, Hannah Park, Sidney Bishop, and Zoe Sotile. Zoe Donuts. Well done, ladies. Crowds of bundled up demonstrators chanted and waved signs Saturday in sub-freezing temperatures in downtown Minneapolis and at the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building. Extra measures were put in place in downtown Minneapolis with blocked roads and at least one hotel bolstering security due to the protests. At the federal building, there were tense standoffs between federal law enforcement officers in riot gear and protesters. A large group of officers approached the protesters from the federal building. The crowd responded with chants of expletives and boos. Some demonstrators urged the crowd to stay calm and stay together. Now, side note, if you find yourself at these protests, that should be you. If the kids are out there running their mouths or they're saying, oh, we ought to throw a shoe or whatever, it's your job. It's your job to say, no, that's not what we do. That's not why we're here. We're here to make a very specific point. And it is not for our own therapy. It is not for our hobby. We are here because people are in danger. And so we don't throw things. We don't misrepresent the cause. CNN saw several protesters detained by federal law enforcement near the federal building, though the protest appeared largely peaceful, and it's not immediately clear why they were detained or what preceded the detentions. Pause. Should the U.S. government be able to detain protesters protesting anything at all without cause? Let's not say that there was cause or not yet, but answer that for yourself earnestly. Should the U.S. government have the power to detain anybody without cause? The answer is, I think, pretty obviously no. They must show cause. If the U.S. government is seen detaining somebody at a protest, do you not think that they have an obligation to quickly explain why, so that they are not mistaken for, I don't know, an authoritarian dictatorship? I would say yes. Exactly, Pinker Bell. Again, my favorite Texan. Absolutely not. This is still America, damn it. Yeah. You know, you might be right, but I do think Tim Walz has a sense of justice. And I do think he actually has a moral compass. And you do things for morality that sometimes are above what your standard bravery is. So he might fold. I hope he doesn't. I certainly hope not. I hope he does us proud. Minneapolis right now and Minnesota at large certainly is restoring some honor to America. But let's continue. In addition to Customs and Border Protection and Bureau of Prisons officers, personnel from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Department were also present, but told CNN in the evening that they did not detain or arrest anyone at Saturday's protests. Interesting that the sheriff's deputies did not do that. Good for them, local boys. Sheriff's deputies' vehicles were used to block parts of the street from demonstrators, and deputies appeared to mostly remain in their cars. Earlier in the day, a far-right content creator led a small group supporting ICE in what was dubbed the March Against Minnesota Fraud near City Hall, but was outnumbered and chased away by a much larger group of counter-protesters, CNN affiliate KARE reported. The Minneapolis Police Department told CNN Saturday evening that they gave a dispersal order but made no arrests, and the crowd eventually dispersed without incident. Lovely. I want to know who got arrested then. If the sheriff said they didn't do it, and the Minneapolis police said they didn't do it, I sure hope it wasn't ICE arresting Americans who they don't have authority over. That would be a crime. That's called false imprisonment, and that's what people go to prison for decades for. Waltz has mobilized, it's kind of what you fight a revolution over. Waltz has mobilized the state National Guard to support the Minnesota State Patrol. Woo! A spokesperson for the Guard said Saturday. An official in the governor's office said the move was a reconfirmation of Walz's direction for the state National Guard to mobilize in support of local law enforcement. The Guard hasn't been deployed. Protests intensified after an ICE agent fatally shot Renee Good, a 37-year-old mother of 3, in her car more than a week ago. Her killing has sparked protests across the country and fueled outrage at the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, which has seen armed and masked agents employing aggressive tactics, that's one way to put it, in targeted campaigns across the country. Let me put it a different way: doing crimes, using the fact that they are ICE agents to do crimes, using the fact that you don't know specifically what ICE is allowed and not allowed to do crimes. Mainstream media is not calling them crimes directly right now. I don't know how much longer they can get away with not doing that, but that is essentially what's happening here. It's very organized crime. And not in the way I was referring to, like a moral crime earlier. It certainly is a moral crime. It's American Nazism, but it is an actual violation of the law in many cases. So what do we gain here? Well, Tim Walz has essentially fired warning shot after warning shot. He might have to reload his warning clip. He sure does love warnings when what we actually require is physical backup. So first of all, I would suggest you contact your police department in your town and make sure that if you call them about a suspicious person who is, say, using their perceived authority to trample your constitutional rights, that they will show up. Just call them. Get verbal confirmation that they'll do that. Put it on their radar that that's what's expected of them. If you want to be a little subversive, you can do that. But as far as assessing Tim Walz, good call. Brave move. The Trump administration has imprisoned people already, including his own Fed chair, or he's going it legally after his own Fed chair, just for defying him. It's about the least American thing I can think of. So it was brave of Tim Walz to do this. It's also right. Your governor should do no less. If your governor does not at least keep pace with Tim Walz in this regard, or signal that they would if your state is invaded, then they're not worth your time. Democrat or Republican, they're not worth your time. This is as states' rightsy as it gets. If you find yourself as a conservative trying to understand why I'm bothering to even pitch this to you, ask a libertarian. I'm sure somewhere in your group you have a libertarian who pretty much agrees with you on most things. Ask them if they're okay with this. And when they say no, ask them why not. I don't agree with libertarians on much, despite having been one once upon a time, but they do have principles. And I tend to agree with their principles when it comes to what the police or the military or anybody who works for the government is allowed to do to you. I think it's a fundamentally American thing to tell the police to go for themselves. I don't think it's a mistake. Go Chuck yourself. Go Chuck yourself says, yeah, Tim Walz is making a big mistake. He will never deploy the National Guard or the state police to intervene in any action of federal officers. I don't know if he will. I truly don't know if he will. I don't think, though, the announcement in and of itself is a mistake. First of all, he should deploy them. That would be the brave and moral thing to do. But he might not be that brave. He might be, he might turn out to be a coward. But I have to say, I can't even call him that. He might still chicken out, but he did the correct thing, and he's risked himself by doing it. So I wouldn't be so quick to bet on him, bet against him. Oh, go chuck yourself. Very revealing, saying, Renee Good made a fatal mistake when she hit the ICE officer with her car. Everyone knows you shouldn't hit an officer in the officer. Let me try that again. Renee Good made a fatal mistake, says, go chuck yourself. Sorry, I am quite dyslexic as well, so this could be on me. Renee Good made a fatal mistake when she hit the ICE officer with her car. Everyone knows you shouldn't hit an officer with your car. She went from 0 miles an hour to 1 mile an hour with her tires angled away from him before he shot her twice in the side of the head. Possibly once in the front of the head, too. But he was safe when he killed her, which he did not have the legal authority to do. He didn't even have legal authority to stop her. It was a murder. The fact that the Trump administration is working very hard to get you to defend this guy in particular is telling. Because what they could have done is said, look, we are not going to pursue federal charges against this guy because it was a scary moment. It was the heat of the moment, and you got to make a snap decision. And we feel that he made the wrong one, but he did not violate the law, and we're going to stand by that. That's what they could have said. They could have acknowledged that what this guy did was shoot an unarmed mother in her head as she was getting away, as he was, by the way, fine. Totally fine. No danger whatsoever. She drove off. She disobeyed him, but he was giving an illegal order anyway. She was well within her right to disobey him. He was not within his rights by any laws, including ICE's own internal policies, to murder her. And now I must ask the question that I find myself asking. When you were young, Chuck, when you were a boy, is this the kind of person you thought you'd be? Did you think you'd be supporting a man who shot somebody's mother in the side of her head? Is this who you thought you'd be? Did you think you'd be a good person? There's time to reconsider. It really is. But you are debasing yourself. You're eroding your own morals. You're selling pieces of your own soul to support somebody who does not care about you. He threw a masked ball at Mar-a-Lago where he let Jeffrey Epstein recruit kids for diddling that you weren't invited to, and you will never be invited to. He calls you uneducated. He makes fun of you to your face, at least to the cameras, all the time. Don't make yourself a worse person for this guy or anybody. I don't think they're dumb. Literally, you say, "Oh, hey, me. It's been a while." To be honest, people are dumb who support politicians and think that politicians really care about them. I don't know about dumb, though, because here's the thing. Politicians get up there and say they care. Oh, they give you emotional speeches, and they rattle on about these principles and these things that they know you care about, and they say it just right. Ooh, they say it just right. And it really seems like they care. Barack Obama cried. He cried after a school shooting. They say they care, is the thing. Are we dumb for believing them? Because they work really hard to confuse the issues as well. When we're getting the news, it's through a filter of nonsense all the time. Do you see that guy was just now just now trying to make it seem like Renee Good had it coming? It's because somebody got into his news feed and distorted his perception of things so hard, so fast, that he hasn't had a moment to actually think about it for himself. I don't know that they're dumb. And if they are dumb, then that's just humanity. Because so many of us think that these people are, have souls. But you are right. In the end, you are right that these politicians don't care about them. So we have to threaten the politicians. That is what we must do. And we threaten them with primaries. That's the best threat we have. You got primaries. You got switching parties for voting. You have withdrawing funding, but most of the politicians that are doing this get their funding from oligarchs anyway. And then you got protests. Those are ways you can threaten politicians. Otherwise, you're left shaking your fist at the local door to your representative's office, which they're never in anyway because they're always in D.C. Ooh, clipped. I love it. What is today's topic? Says Carrie Boren. Great question. How's the healing going, Jake? Yeah. I keep playing with a Belgian Malinois, which is a kind of basically shepherd dog, and she likes hand biting. Today's topic is actually coming straight out of Michigan. Let's go to WDIV, my old haunt. In full disclosure, I used to work for these folks, but don't worry, I'm positive none of them remember me. WDIV. I was a digital producer for multiple years. I walked into the building a couple of years later to say hi to the old gang, and it was like a random dude had walked in with his pants down. Now, I did pull my pants up, but it was very awkward. Anyway, here they are talking about an incident that happened when Trump toured the Ford factory. Real quick, I want to ask you, the criticism that was leveled against Trump is equally true of Joe Biden. And how would you have felt if somebody had said what was said to Trump about Joe Biden and Biden had behaved this way? I'm asking this in the way I'm asking it so that I can get a response from both progressives and MAGA folks. I want to know if it were Joe Biden, for whom this is an equal criticism of, how would you have felt about the response?
Making a couple of stops in Metro Detroit today. One was at Motor City Casino, where protesters were waiting. Detroit police arresting two of them for disobeying orders. Inside, the president addressed the Detroit Economic Club. He touted his tariffs as a positive for the auto industry, a policy Democrats say has brought too much uncertainty.
One of the biggest reasons for this unbelievable success has been our historic use of tariffs. Now, it's tariffs that are making money for Michigan, and the entire country is stronger and safer and richer than ever before.
Quite frankly, the supplier industry is significantly hurt by the tariffs. Who's paying them? Vehicles are more expensive than they've been. I want to work with everybody to have a strong auto industry. Manufacturing is the backbone of the American economy, and we need to keep it strong. We've got to stop making them a ping pong ball.
The president also took a tour of Ford's Rouge complex, where he got into a tense exchange with a worker inside the facility. In video obtained by TMZ, a worker on a floor below Trump can be heard shouting something that included the words, quote, pedophile protector. Apparently, of course, in reference to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and the delayed, heavily redacted release of the Epstein files. Well, the president is then...
Sorry. So I do want to, again, take the wind out of some progressive sails here. Remember that this is I've been saying equally true. It's not equally true. But this insult would also apply to Joe Biden. So again, I want to remind progressives to answer honestly in the horizontal stream if you don't mind, or whatever stream. Answer honestly, even if it's just to yourself. But how would you have felt about this if somebody had shouted that at Biden and Biden had flipped them off? And then, and MAGA, ask yourself the same thing. If it had been Biden flipping off an auto worker for calling him a pedo protector, how'd you feel about it?
Seen pointing down at the worker, either mouthing or yelling the F word and the word you, and then giving the middle finger. Now, TMZ says the White House communications director sent them a response, which...
Okay. Yeah, I freaking love DIV. Go chuck yourself. We've moved on to other topics, but that's not so. Hitting a police officer with your car is quite a vague way to put it. And the reality is she nudged him. She went from 0 miles an hour to 1 mile an hour. And she was pulling out and away from him. He was in no danger, and he knew he was in no danger. And you embarrass yourself by sticking by that as a talking point. You could still, I don't think you're right, but you could still make arguments as to why he was allowed to do that. But they got to be based in reality, or no one's going to take you seriously. And I do want to take you seriously, but you got to try. Look at the White House statement. A lunatic was wildly screaming expletives in a complete fit of rage. Do you see how he catastrophizes? Do you see how this guy tries to rile you up and tries to exaggerate every detail? Every time a thing happens, this guy's pattern is the same. He takes something that he can say that's negative about the people he wants you to not like, and he blows it up, he stretches it out, he makes it huge, regardless of whether it's true or not, having nothing to do with giving you a clearer picture of what happened. And he takes everything about himself and he spins it as nicely as possible. And it's one thing to kind of carefully choose your words a little bit. It's another thing entirely. You know, it's one thing to say, like, instead of I barged in the room, like, well, I entered the room at this time. But it's a different thing entirely when he's saying a lunatic. So that's exaggeration. Wildly screaming expletives. That's an exaggeration. He screamed pedophile protector. He didn't curse. So that's not an exaggeration. That's a lie. Number 3. So exaggeration with lunatic. Don't know where he's getting that from. Wildly screaming, exaggeration. He shouted, yeah, but to be heard. Not expletives. That's a lie. So exaggeration, lie. In a complete fit of rage. He did not seem to be in a complete fit of rage. I'm going to put that as an exaggeration rather than a lie. And the president gave an appropriate and unambiguous response. I don't know if the president flipping off somebody is appropriate. In fact, I can tell you it's not. The president has an imbalance in their power dynamic. The president, you're not allowed to punch. Because if you go to punch the president, like you would me if I were to give you the finger in the street, you would have the ability to come punch me about it. You're not allowed to go punch the president, or guys with guns shoot you. So no, the president, for 4 years at least, does not have the right to flip off Americans. It's not an appropriate response. But I will give them this. They said one true thing. It was unambiguous. Donald Trump really doesn't like being called a pedophile protector. I want to point out that earlier I mentioned that he, shortly after that came out, filed to make sure that the Epstein Files Enforcement Act was unenforceable. Oh, wait. Epstein Files Act. Name. It's not Enforcement Act. The Transparency Act. The Epstein Files Transparency Act was not enforceable.
reads, quote, "A lunatic was wildly screaming expletives in a complete fit of rage, and the president gave an appropriate and unambiguous response," end quote. In a statement, a Ford Motor Company spokesperson said, quote, "One of our core values is respect, and we don't condone anyone saying anything inappropriate like that within our facilities. When that happens, we have a process to deal with it, but we don't get into specific personnel matters," end quote.
Oh, man. You have a little sense of this guy's character? Do you think that Ford worker was wrong for shouting that at the president, for calling him a pedophile protector? I got to tell you, I'm proud to be a Michigander because of that guy. But I want to know your actual thoughts here. The pedophile protector comment. Do you think that was the right thing to do, regardless of whether or not it was company policy or this, that, or the other thing? Regardless of how the president reacted to it, do you think it was the right thing to do? I remember one of the most heroic moments I ever got to witness on camera was when somebody at a press conference threw their shoe at George W. Bush. Because, you know, he'd had family members murdered by this guy's lies about Iraq. And he thought a good thing to do was to throw a shoe at W. And that guy's a hero of mine. And I wish we would have had somebody throw a shoe at Joe Biden, specifically about the Epstein files. If there was a way to communicate somehow that your shoe throwing was related to the Epstein files, maybe throw a child's shoe at him, you know? I wish somebody would have thrown a shoe at Joe Biden about his blind support of Israel in their genocide. There's a lot of things I'd wish had been shouted at Joe Biden that weren't shouted at Joe Biden. And I would have been grateful for it. Because I think as you become more and more familiar with the con that both of these parties have been running on us and are currently right now getting away with, I think you'll find that it's a good thing when people shout truths at these motherfuckers. Let's see. Epic Bush clip, absolutely. Why is this imbecile in my feed? This imbecile is remarkably lucky. I tend to turn up in the least expected places. If they're against pedophiles, then why don't you support ICE supporting the folks at their deporting? Those two things are not even remotely related. And I think you understand that. I think you asked that knowing it and hoping it would get me angry. It doesn't, though. It makes me sad. It makes me think, God, somebody got this guy so wound up about people he's definitely never met, about people that are not harming him. Somebody has so captured this guy's media feed that he's willing to let a rapist get away with raping children just so that he can ensure that some brown people get hurt. So he's not even gaining anything. And if I wind up being wrong about this, about my assessment of politics, good. But from where I stand, it looks like you're not gaining anything. Your life's not getting easier because of the decisions this guy's making. Your life's getting harder and will continue to get harder. Like he lied about the tariffs. I can tell you, I live in this state where these cars are made. They're not cheaper. They are much more expensive now. He just straight up lied about that. He's lying to you about this. He's lying to you about diddling kids. But he's got you so sure that an unnamed brown person with goose egg power, with no ability to get anything done, is somehow getting away with, every crime that they whisper to you is secretly happening all the time. He's got you so wrapped around his finger that you are providing cover for a child rapist. And I know you don't think of it like that. And I know you probably have some equally humbling opinions about me, I'd actually like to hear them. I don't want to go on living in ignorance like we have been. But boy, that's really sad to me. If you go to DHS, worst of the worst, you can see the worst of the worst people that have been deported. You're seeing all sorts of people that are on the level of Epstein. First of all, accusations from this Department of Justice are to be taken with an entire deer-satisfying salt lick. How much did they say about Kilmar Abrego Garcia? They photoshopped MS-13 tattoos onto a picture of his non-tattooed fingers. I would start there, but I would also point out that 80% of the people that they have arrested don't have any criminal record at all. I'm not saying 80% didn't have active warrants. I'm not saying 80% weren't currently under investigation. I mean, no criminal record at all. They're just grabbing brown people. It's an excuse. It is just an excuse. JWA, it's one thing to say he supports somebody's policies. It's one thing to say, well, look, no matter what else might be true of the guy, I think that he's got a good plan for the country. And I would disagree with you, but at least I could trust that you were sober about the man. Trump is awesome. He was Epstein's bestie for like a decade. I mean, he's awesome. He vocally doesn't care about you. He throws gross dog parties at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, where people wear dog masks and ball gowns. There's just nothing awesome about this guy. We haven't had an awesome president in our lifetimes. And I don't care how old you are. It doesn't matter. If you still have a pulse, then in your lifetime, we haven't had an awesome president. Arguably, we never had an awesome president. But not Donald Trump, dude. Get higher expectations for yourself. David Martin Mangrave, heavens forbid you would have learned something. I mean, it's an uphill battle with me, man. I'm trying, but I've been very clear that I'm not the brightest. It takes me a while. More like 98% don't have any. Oh, wow. It's more like, I haven't checked in a while, but they are getting desperate because they put up irrational numbers that they are trying to, for some reason, keep up with. They lie about everything else. I don't know why they wouldn't just lie about this, but it's more like 98% don't have any criminal record or warrants at all. Which tells you they're not starting with saying, who's got warrants? They're saying, let's grab some Browns and then see if we can accuse them of something. See who will fail to defend them, if we can get away with mistreating them. Because it's not about what they said it's about. It's because all of this is pageantry in order to get you all to allow them to give a huge chunk of money to private prison owners. By the way, totally separate topic, but the same scam. Maybe it'll help to look at it like this. Where do you think, and I'm asking everybody sincerely, I'm not trying to trick you, although the question is probably not one you're going to get correct because there'd be no reason for you to know this answer because you're being lied to. But where do you think the money that goes from the stolen oil in Venezuela is held? Where do you think the stolen Venezuela oil money is held? So we stole Venezuela's oil. You might say, well, we had a right to or whatever, but we did steal it at gunpoint. Literally. Where do you think that money's going? If you had to guess. Oh my gosh. Well, asked and answered. I shouldn't have underestimated you, and I'm sorry. Yeah, Qatar. Banks in Qatar. Look at that. Are you saying America's addicted to oil? Yeah, well, we're addicted to taking bribes from oil oligarchs. Yeah, the Obama administration is not one I enjoy. But we're back on the oil thing. Who fired that off like right away? Dubai HBX was a great guess. But yeah, Margaret McKee nailed it. It's in banks in Qatar. That's exactly correct. It's not in banks in the United States. It's not it's not being tracked by the US government, although Trump is firing off different figures every day for how much we are making for it. But let me tell you something. I think 2 streams back, when I was talking to you guys, when I was talking to y'all about this is 3 streams back actually, when I was talking to y'all about who was going to benefit from the invasion of Venezuela, I specifically said to you, it's not going to be you. It is going to be oil executives. Because that's what happened with Iraq as well. It wasn't you that benefited. It was Halliburton, Dick Cheney, the vice president's company. And as though I'm Nostradamus over here, as though I can read the future, where do we find out the money is being held? Not in U.S. banks. Being held in Qatar, where it is not monitored, where it is basically a slush fund. This is just Iran-Contra, but they made an announcement first. I'm not actually psychic. I'm actually not all that sharp. I just don't trust the president. Regardless of party, I do not trust the president. And if you start with that, if you start by assuming this son of a bitch is lying to you, because all these people lie all the time, you will develop the ability to hold your own guy accountable. And look, I say this time and time again. I'm not talking to you from a particularly high horse, because I failed to hold my guy accountable. My guy. Our equivalent of Jeb Bush was Joe Biden. Joe Biden was my last guy in office, and I did not hold him accountable. I fucked it up. But you know what? None of us have been successful yet. And I'm begging you, if Trump is somebody you consider to be your guy, unwrap your lips from his shaft and instead try criticizing the guy. As an unfair jab at you, but you know what I mean. You know, it's our default. And don't get me wrong, I was worse than you've ever been, because I was doing this in front of a microphone, which has an exponential effect. But I was running defense for Joe Biden because it's our instinct. It's our instinct to say, well, I don't want the other side to get one over on us. That's the most important thing, is that we not look like we're wrong ever. It's not important that we actually fix the country. It's just important that the other side loses. When are we ever going to improve? If these are the standards that we have for our government, if we'll just both keep pretending, if half of the country is always willing to pretend like the president's doing nothing wrong, no matter what the president's doing, we're just asking to be controlled by kings. We have failed as Americans. We have ceded our country, given it over to ultra rich. They're not even ultra rich Americans. Elon Musk is from South Africa. Let me ask the secretly racist, which I'm not accusing any particular group of being, but let me just ask the secretly racist amongst you. Are you really comfortable with a South African controlling things? Let me ask the 90s progressives amongst you. Are you really comfortable with a South African emerald mine inheritor controlling things? let me ask just the nationalistic amongst you. Are you really comfortable with a non-American having so much sway in U.S. elections? Let me ask just the flies amongst you. Are you really comfortable with such a frog-looking motherfucker controlling things? You can feel however you feel about a person's personal circumstances of birth, whatever. The problem is the oligarchy. The problem is the fact that this dude is a billionaire, and he seems to think that gives him a right to say how your children will live their lives, where you're going to travel, and under what conditions you're going to travel. If you live in California, you don't have a Hyperloop. You don't have, a bullet train, because Elon Musk decided that it was an opportunity for him to make money. Your electric bill has gotten more expensive because oligarchs have decided that they want to make huge data centers that don't actually do all that much for you. K-Dog, I will have to address this at another time because it just ain't so. Talking about Doge. Siamese Stormtrooper says, so not only is the whole chat bots, but so is the host. Oh my God, am I? That would explain a hell of a lot. If it turns out I'm a bot, hold on. Open. Now, there we go. All right. Let's see. Am I a bot? Okay, I've got to identify these traffic lights. I can't click anything. Well, fair enough. Then take it from me, a well-known robot. These presidents don't have your interests in mind. And they're not going to start having your interests in mind until you insist that they do. And I say that with the precision of a robot, you understand. I can't identify traffic lights, but I can identify crooks. And so far, that is literally every president of my lifetime. An absolute criminal. Natchikit, great to see you. Hey, buddy. Elon Musk is responsible for us not being in the space race. Elon Musk is in the space race. Americans used to have something called NASA, which built its own rockets for America and didn't have to negotiate with the South African as to whether or not we can use his and when and how much we got to pay him. Elon Musk didn't get us anything. He got himself freaking paycheck from the government. Dude, do you see what I'm talking about? W. Ben, you hate liberals as a hobby. You hate liberals in a way that I find cute, frankly. I hate liberals with the old magic. I hate liberals at a level that would shock you. You would ask yourself, how can a man remain nonviolent when he hates someone so much? How can you feel so much of any one feeling and not go insane? And you fucking can't. I despise liberals. And the fact that you think I am one means that you're being lied to about what a liberal is and, crucially, what a progressive is. True Blue, 4069, wealthy people don't care about the blue collar. Sister, preach. That is 100% accurate. Wealthy people do not care about the blue collar. I know a couple of wealthy people who I no longer talk to. And I can tell you specifically the psychology that's going on is they see what it's like to be blue collar. They see what it's like to work a real job and to have real stakes in your life. And they're cowardly, and they do everything they can to make sure they are not that, including ensuring that the blue-collar people's lives stay as bad as they are. In other words, they will double down on the conditions that harm blue-collar people just so that they don't have to be one. And the issue is, it's unnecessary. The reason they have to double down on these things is because other wealthy people who are wealthier than your average wealthy person, people who think of a millionaire as a poor person, those people insist that the blue collars' lives are basically slavery. Right now, if you work 40 hours a week, people will be talking about your lifestyle. If you're an American that works 40 hours a week, people in about 50 years are going to be talking about your lifestyle in the way that you were taught about sharecroppers. Drink that in for a second. People are going to be talking about you. If you're an average American worker, they're going to be talking about you the way we talk about how badly former slaves were abused through sharecropping. And if you don't know what sharecropping is, fine. They're going to talk about you the way we talk about turn-of-the-century orphans working in factories. They're going to wonder why you didn't raise up. On a related note, if you aren't satisfied with the way America is going right now, never mind what party you care about, but if you aren't satisfied with the way America is going, then on January 20th at 2 p.m., walk outside and look around. If you're not satisfied with, for example, ICE being able to bully you, to be able to trample all over your rights because they're too incompetent to do their jobs within the law. If you're not confident with the way your wages are distributed, if you're not confident with the cap on Social Security existing at all, walk outside January 20th at 2 p.m. Just walk outside and look around. If there's nobody else there, you got work to do. Because that means in your neighborhood, nobody knows. Nobody is organized, and nobody knows that we are going to start working together to force the government to stop protecting fucking pedophiles and to stop attacking us with armed thugs. However, if you walk outside and you look around and you see a couple of other people, those are people you can work with. Those are people who are brave enough to acknowledge that America is sick and has been for a long time. January 20th, 2 p.m., walk outside, school, work, of your house, whatever, wherever you are at 2 p.m., walk outside and just stand there. Look around and see who else walks outside and stands there and looks around. That's how we're doing this now. That's how we are going to determine who actually gives a shit. Who's just running their mouth and they don't actually plan on voting any different or demanding anything of the people they vote for. They don't actually plan on improving the lives of Americans. They'll sit their asses at home like they always do, helping nobody do anything. But you can walk outside at 2 p.m. and that's the only thing you got to do. If specifically you would like to force the government, and again, I am a leftist and this group is mostly controlled by leftists, but we're taking opinions from everybody because it's about economics. If you want to be able to force the government to say, raise the minimum wage, tax the rich, get big money out of politics so that George Soros and Bill Gates and all those fuckers cannot buy your elections. If you want to force the government to do that, join the General Strike US. There's a general strike in Minneapolis on the 23rd. Even if you don't agree with the reasons they're striking, let's see how effective it is. Because I'll tell you, it's not only going to be a strike for left-wing causes. The general strike is going to be something that we ask you all to participate in when you agree with the cause. And I think you're going to agree with most of the things we care about. Because we is just us. We is you too. We invite you to use this tactic. It's not a group. It's a tactic. I would like you to be able, even if I don't agree with the thing you're striking for, if there's enough of you in a town that you can shut the town down by not going to work and not buying anything, then I want you to get your way. Because Americans don't believe in taxation without representation. General strike on the 23rd. Don't go to work. Take it off. Don't buy anything. Slow the economy on just the 23rd as a warning shot. That's regarding ICE. But January 20th, 2 p.m., that's regarding everything. And I invite y'all, show of force, and do it with us. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people talking about they're out there because of ICE. And that's fine. They're allowed to be. You're not required to agree with everything about every issue. But if you have something that you think is worth scaring the government over, January 20th, 2 p.m., just walk outside and look around. Maybe you'll like what you see. Maybe you won't. But you will certainly know how much work you have to do. Oh, Donald James X, it's good to see you, man. Hey, separate from politics, well, I got 125 people watching here. Separate from politics, this guy's channel is so much fun. If you just enjoy music, basically his whole shtick is he started by learning to play the guitar, and now he plays songs. He just plays backing tracks to songs. And it's in these times, no matter which side you fall on, boy, does it make me feel really good to just go listen to some tunes. He's been collaborating with another person named Juji. They make fantastic music. Donald James X 2990 on YouTube. It's genuinely worth following it. K-Talk. NASA doesn't even have people in space anymore. They're on a studio set. Are you talking about the broadcast from the space station? I hope that doesn't turn out to be a studio, man. That would bum me out. That's like, I love those broadcasts. I really hope that's not the case. I agree. I think you're going to get no disagreement here from 50 kilogram brain. Liberals do suck the fun out of life. Yeah, they do. They're liberals are for us like what Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio are for you guys. Double tap to like the screen. Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh, wait, on the vertical. You're right. I thought you were saying double tap the thumbs up button. Oh, I'm so far behind in comments. Gang, I'm sorry. I'm used to a smaller thing. Ooh. DJ and Juji's band now has a name, Uncle 13. It's official, I promise. All right, not so private playlist says, after all, never trust someone who justifies circumcision as anything other than genital mutilation and pedophilia apologetics. Well, I don't know about pedophilia apologetics. I'm sure at some point God's chosen people had a a good reasoning behind chopping off dick skin. But it is one of those religious practices that I am deeply uncomfortable with. But I don't have a but. I'm just deeply uncomfortable with it. I really don't think you should chop off baby dicks. I don't know. But again, I'm not religious, I suppose. So, dude, get a real job, loser. I have one, and it's awful. Just awful. But I should get another one because I am so broke that my StreamYard subscription literally overdrew my bank account today. So you do have a point. And no doubt, oh, wait, I got to jump up. So again, I do have a real job, but you are correct. I'm 100% a loser. Oh, he's being anti-Semitic the long way? Ugh. I don't know. I'm going to choose. I'm going to hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Donald James X. If you guys find yourselves eager to insult, I would first ask yourselves why. Because I'm not coming at you in a way that is anything but beneficial to you. Again, even if you don't agree with me, you have an opportunity. If you will, we might be on different teams. I'm willing to let you look through my book of plays. And the reason I want to do this is because, frankly, it doesn't matter anymore. It does not matter anymore. The things we have to do, for example, to get big money out of politics, they require 2/3 of the Senate, of the House and Senate. They require constitutional amendments, in other words. So, like, it doesn't matter if we win in the next election and you guys lose, and then you still totally disagree with us about everything all the time, and we totally disagree with you about everything all the time, because we'll get our little tiny victories that don't mean anything, but we won't get the constitutional changes that mean that Bill Gates can't buy an election, AIPAC can't buy an election. We won't get a new version of the Magna Carta that actually means you can arrest a president. Can you imagine if you could have arrested Joe Biden? Or how about Barack Obama? Barack Obama killed a guy in office. I'm shocked that the right wing literally never talks about this, but Barack Obama killed an American while he was in office. Extrajudicial killing. And y'all never bring it up. Why do you never bring it up? Because you're not told about it. Why are you not told about it? Because it's the very thing that every president is allowed to do. It's not in the law that they're allowed to do it. It's just common practice. We let them kill people. Can you imagine if we had a constitutional amendment that insisted that a president can be held to account, can be tried in court for the crimes they do? Can you imagine that? So when I tell you that it doesn't matter anymore, when I tell you you can look at our playbook, it's because we need to make the game itself better. And there's tons of structural things I could pitch to you for how to do that. I'd like to hear your pitches to me for how to do that. But oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We can't keep doing the same thing where we're irrationally angry with each other, where we're trying to make each other angry. If you find yourself, this is where I changed recently, and I'm going to try to infect you with the same thing. So jump away now if you're not ready for that. If you find yourself tempted to make somebody on the other side of the aisle angry, that's a problem. That's a weakness of yours that has been installed into you by somebody else. Probably by somebody that is afraid of what you will learn if you're not in an argument with somebody who disagrees with you. If you've been engaged in politics in the last 10 years, you probably don't know any other way to interact with the other side. And that's not your fault. These tricksy hobbitses, these fucking centrists who pretend like, well, I'm mostly on your side, I'm just a little on their side. No, they are on the oligarch's side. I would rather be in a tooth and nail, chains and knives fight with somebody who is full through and through MAGA, not centrist Republican, not conservative Democrat, but MAGA. I would rather be in an honest fight with y'all than this nonsense that we engage in, where, for example, Joe Biden pretends like he gives a shit about, or Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema. They're allowed to be in the Democratic Party, but when it comes time to raise the minimum wage, they vote against it. Kristen Sinema does a little bullish curtsy. It's just a game to them. And it's a game you and I are playing. It's a game you and I consistently get duped into playing very specific roles in. And it winds up with you and I fighting. Even though really the true game is you and I versus the people that keep lying to us. Because the people that keep lying to us are making bank. And you're dying. This is a really good question from Go Chuck Yourself. Do you think Elon Musk is doing this for wealth, or do you think Elon Musk is taking advantage of American people by stepping over NASA? Both. I mean, he's reached a point of wealth that there's almost no point to it. Like, try in your mind, in your head, try to spend $100 billion. Just think of the things you'd buy. You can do this after if you like, but try to think of spending $100 billion and think of the things you would buy. And I suspect if you then went and Googled how much approximately it would cost to buy these things, you would not reach $100 billion. And I don't mean just like I would buy this network, this network, this network, and this network. I mean things you would actually want to have. And I bet you couldn't get to $100 billion. My point is, Elon Musk is on track to become a trillionaire. If you want an example of how much money $1 billion is, a million seconds with an M, a million seconds is 11 days. And a billion seconds is 37 years. The average American makes $4 million across the entirety of their lifetime. $4 million, that's your budget for your whole life, including sending your kids to college, including whatever you pay for your mortgage, including your car. $4 million for the average. That's 44 days. Elon Musk has enough money in terms of seconds for 37 years, hundreds of times over. Do I think he's doing it for the wealth, or is he taking advantage of American people by stepping over NASA? Both. The wealth is part of his reputation, and he's terrified of dying. That's what you're asking me what I think. I can only tell you what I think. I think he's afraid of death, pretty much. When you boil it down, his obsession with having children, fear of death. So it's a form of biological immortality to have your genetic code carry on. His reputation, he tries to convince people that he's this like amazing Iron Man type. He's none of those things. He's not a particularly good engineer. He's not a particularly good anything except investor. He's good at investing. He invests in things that become profitable. Usually. I don't mean profitable like the company does well. I mean, he makes money off it. Whatever. It's part of making a name that people remember. That's what it's really about. Does he want the wealth from NASA? No, I think he wants to be known as the space guy. Because he's afraid of death. He wants to be remembered. Does he want, when he gets to the trillion, is it because he actually wants to spend $1 trillion? No, it's because he wants to be the first guy that got that rich. He wants people to find him interesting. I mean, I don't want to dunk on the guy for having very real, very understandable fears. Everybody, for the most part, fears death at some point in their life. Some people get over it. Some people don't. You don't have to. I don't want to die. Jesus. But he handles it badly. He just handles it badly. Oh my God. Ghosts. Okay, so K-Dog, this is what I'm talking about. Have you noticed a tendency to exaggerate? First of all, you start with such a stupid argument. That doesn't narrow it down. I'm not a bright man. How can I know which argument you're talking about? Everything I say is a little bit dumb. So you've just said the entire stream, as far as I know. It doesn't narrow it down at all. Thing number two, you say he's one of the smartest men in the world. Based on what? Certainly not his tweets. Certainly not his public interviews. Certainly not the opinion of his various exes. You could argue the existence of his exes. I've never heard or seen a picture of Grimes, but my understanding is she's a beauty, so there is that. But come on. Astrophysicist? Who says he's an astrophysicist? When does he do astrophysics? I gotta look this up. What degrees does Elon Musk hold? Yeah, he's got a Bachelor of Arts in in physics. A bachelor's in physics. And a bachelor in economics. Awarded after he transferred to, oh my God, I'm not interested. Sorry, I'm getting AI ads or ads for some feature I don't care about. Oh, share this. Both awarded in 1997 after he transferred from Queen's University. He briefly enrolled in a Stanford PhD program, but left after 2 days to focus on his entrepreneurial ventures. Now, look, his entrepreneurial ventures, that was the way to go. No doubt about it. An astrophysicist? No, he's not. Nobody ever has gone, we've got an astrophysics problem to solve. Let's call Elon Musk. No. You might call a SpaceX engineer, like a real astrophysicist that got hired. But, I mean, come on, man. At the very least, one assumes that if you are an astrophysicist, that you have a doctorate. At the very least. I would also assume that you are a practicing, like somebody's employed you for your opinion on astrophysics. I don't even think he's an inventor. Oh, excuse me. I thought you said inventor. Yeah, this is it exactly. XTC. Elon is just an investor. Exactly. Now, look, he is a very savvy investor. I'm not trying to, knock the guy's ability to generate money. He's good at generating money. Yeah. That's all he's good at. You'll note that his vehicles do not perform the way he says they'll perform. You'll note that his projects don't turn out the way they're going to do. Doge didn't turn out the way he said it was going to. He left that after getting punched in the face. And his wife taken, I think. Oh, wait, no. He took Stephen Miller's wife. Kudos to him. But no, I mean, I'm being petty, I'm sorry. But he's just an investor. That's it. He's an uncharismatic con artist. He tells people things are going to be a certain way if you just invest now. Brain chips are right around the corner. Self-driving's right around the corner. Everything's right around the corner. Just let me hold on to that dollar. But then, it turns out, that he's lying.
Yeah, Eric Adams is doing that new crypto project.
I kind of ruined the thing. Yeah, he promises that the thing's right around the corner. But if you remember from the beginning of the stream, it's always just this. It's just this thing in larger and larger scale. Because when it comes time to actually generate money in the way he said he was going to generate money for the people he said he would generate money for, it usually doesn't pan out that way. Oh, I played it, buddy. I played it at the beginning. If it was 1895, Elon would be traveling from town to town with a cart of patent medicine. Yes. Absolutely. Gang, I think that's a good note to end on. Don't trust these motherfuckers. You don't have to trust me. You don't have to trust anybody if you don't want, but certainly don't trust these evil sons of bitches. January 20th, 2 p.m., walk outside. See who else agrees with you that America's in a rotten place. January 23rd, all day. If you don't want ICE invading your streets, don't go to work. It's a minor sacrifice to ask. Make it. This has been WYCD Wicked, because that is what you can do. My name's Jake.